A lot of our events that we go to on the fire side and in instances like cardiac arrest, timeliness is of the utmost importance. And anytime we have traffic bottlenecks or we have railway crossings that are blocked, we're having delayed response times. And in some cases, that can be the instance between life or death. Back in 2007, the Hays County Fire Chiefs Association internally wrote a plan of action to address some of the communications issues we were seeing around the county or emergency services. That recommendation was ultimately submitted to County Commissioner's Court, and that's when the county hired an independent consultant to come in and do their evaluation, which included our original plan of action. Within 8 years of planning, there's been numerous meetings, a lot of them monthly. I know it's addressed every month in the Fire Chiefs Association on what the progress is, how we're coming along. It's taken a lot of collaboration, a lot of work by people in all parts of government across the entire county. So in the 911 realm, the call always starts with the end caller, and it's routed through a regional 911 system that winds up coming back into our county to talk to our actual communication centers. From there, we pass information along to our first responders in the field. One of our biggest issues that we have is people are used to instant communication features such as Facebook, Instagram, all these types of things. And those are not a reality in public safety nowadays. Those are the kind of things we're trying to go to. Around this county, we suffer from a lot of communications issues. And we're not talking about just in-time or real-time communications. We're talking about even documentation, sharing of data, and sharing of historic information. And that's how a lot of this conversation started. This county historically has had large wildfire seasons over the last 17, 18 years. We have major floods. We're involved in major disasters. It seems, 3 or 4 times every 10 years. And those issues always keep coming up. And those issues aren't new to our county. It's a public safety nationwide issue. The federal government's put some dollars into developing FirstNet, which is a nationwide, LTE broadband data sharing network that's specific to public safety. A lot of the issues we have there is that we share common cell carriers with the other companies, and those companies were at the mercy of everybody that uses the system. Part of this comm center plan is to bring those types of technology that the normal citizens used to, that instant data, real-time sharing information, in to bridge the gap between the 911 caller, the incident, and the first responder in the field, especially in those critical initial response phases of the incident. The just-in-time real sharing of data information is important. A lot of what happens in the comm center, people tend to think it's just technology-based, but there's a real value to the face-to-face feature and having multiple agencies working across the room or across the desk from each other. Law enforcement has really recognized this. You have the fusion centers that share real-time justice information across federal agencies, state agencies, and local agencies. This is kind of an extension of that. We're trying to develop a center here where we share just-in-time, real-time information between all of our partner agencies in the county, and then that gets also passed back to the region. And we're not the only center. There is a regional center in Austin at CTEC up there. And then in Williamson County, there's a couple comm centers, but they're pretty, I wouldn't say consolidated, probably combined. But Hays County is a very interesting type of county. We have very rural parts. We have some roadways that go, or one-way type of roads. We have very rural communities. We have some very dense urban type communities here also. As growth comes through and times are changing, it's becoming harder and harder to keep up with address changes, to locate people. I'll tell you examples are people think a lot of the swiftwater rescues we experienced in Wimberley and in Kyle during the last big floods last year, people think just because you call 911 that somebody's going to come to your location. If you're stuck in a vehicle floating down a flooded waterway or a river, we don't have the ability to know where you are without the cell 911 system continue to ping your location. And in most instances, we don't have direct access, and it takes time. And those are very time-compressed events. Those events, we have to get to people very immediately. We see a lot of times, we see delayed responses because of road issues, lack of communication, not really sure where patients are at. And it really impedes us to use our resources efficiently because of that whole communication breakdown. Currently, right now, our service areas operates out of 2 communication centers, San Marcos and the County Sheriff's Office. That brings in a lot of issues with us because we can't treat our response area as one continuous unit. Those 2 comm centers are having to call back and forth and pass information, sometimes via telephone, just to route the right ambulances to the right calls. When you have everybody in the same type of facility, the infrastructure becomes very interoperable. And that's very important from the technology aspect. Over the last 8 years, we've worked very hard at looking at the technology going into this project. We're trying to take economies of scale, learning how to really share data and information. And I'll just tell you this for kind of your side note, but the technologies that we all adopt, okay, they're usually a proprietary standard.
Right.
And it costs money to integrate those things. Well, even when you integrate two technologies, sometimes you don't really get seamless integration or there's data missing. You know, it's usually kind of focused and you get one thing out of it. When you come to a common platform and you share common software and hardware and servers, then you're getting equal access to every responder, regardless of agency, regardless of type of public safety entity, and you get total communications, seamless communications around the whole group. Every part of the county that manages emergency services, especially on fire and EMS, is a little different. The common platform that we all share is the communication center. Historically, the sheriff's office has taken that responsibility on 100% themselves, and they manage it, and they do a great job for us. But as we start to grow, we're putting more ambulances, there's more fire trucks, we're putting a lot of people in these rural areas that are going to be exposed to the potential of a lot of serious public safety events. And if we need to go ahead and start implementing the communication solutions now so that we can responsibly address those. We don't want to play catch up. We try to keep one ambulance on one side of that railroad crossing and Kyle and one on the east side. But if the east side goes on to a call, then we're going to have to bring in an ambulance out of San Marcos. You're looking at additional 5 or 6 minute response time just into the Kyle area itself. And also the fire department's delayed, which is our first responders. So there's instances, if they're on a fire, they could have a delayed response to a medical call because they're not available. And now we're still coming from San Marcos with an extra unit. So.